Welcome to Garden Times. Today is July 26th and we're in zone 3B and it's time for us to harvest our garlic. I have two different varieties. Our first variety here is what we're going to harvest first, and then in about 2 weeks we'll harvest the next variety. I'm not sure what the variety is. I bought them each at a farmer's market and I just started growing them about 4 years ago and just keep saving and my cloves and replanting our biggest bulbs that we harvest. We'll go through that later in about October, mid-October is when we'll plant. But today we're going to harvest and we're going to go through the process of curing. Also, I'm going to show you why we pull scapes earlier in the season. So as you can see, we have some yellowing going on our leaves. That's the sign. That's what we're looking for when it's time to harvest our garlic. And you're kind of going on an average of the whole crop. You might have a few like this one here that's a little bit early. This one down here maybe is a touch late, but you kind of go on an average. So also, earlier in the season, we pulled our scapes, pinched them, cut them, whatever method you want to use. We remove the scapes. This is a scape that continued to grow after it was removed. They grow up through the center here. But what's important, this you don't have to worry about this that continues to grow. You can see here, this was pinched off, cut off. I pull them, kind of break them. I try to pull them. Sometimes you don't get the whole thing out and they continue to grow. Everybody has their own method. But here's one that I left. Now this is a scape. This is what grows at the top. And that's like a bulb. You know, it'll look like that, closed, just swells up. But if you leave it, this is what happens. And these are what are called bulbits. These are also what you can use to plant more garlic. They're really tiny, like the size of a grain of rice. And each one of these hairs, if you want to call them that, each one of these green leaflets, there's a little tiny garlic bulbit at the bottom of that. So when you leave these, what happens is that all the energy goes to the scape, to the bulbits, to start developing these, instead of putting all the energy down to your garlic bulbs to grow larger cloves. So to show you the difference, I'm going to dig this one up. As you can see, that's a really tiny bulb. Not very big at all, because it's putting all of its energy to up here. This is where the plants reproduce, and also from the cloves. If we were to leave these in the ground, these would fall off, go wherever, and they would grow, and the stem would die off, and the cloves will start to separate and they'll start to grow their own plant as well. So they have two different ways of reproducing new plants. So maybe we'll do something with these, maybe not. We'll see. Now let's get on to what we're really looking for, is our bulbs that we grew for eating. All right, and look at that. Look at the size of that, huh? Good size bulb for our first one. And when we harvest these, the most important thing is to just, you want to keep the roots on. but get as much of the dirt out as you can. Just shake it all off. Don't scrape too hard on the bulbs, but that's it. Now we'll set that aside. Here's a comparison. Leave the scape on, removing scapes. Big difference. All right, let's see if we can get any bigger ones. Now, you don't want to just grab and pull these right out of the ground, because you may end up just snapping them off. So you kind of get underneath them with your shovel and gently pull up. Another nice size one. Break off the dirt. Trying to leave as many roots as we can, part of the curing process. You got to be a little bit careful. You don't want to bruise them. They bruise pretty easily. And just knocking off loose dirt. You don't have to worry about scrubbing them. It'll come off later. All right, another nice size one. And in October, when we go to plant our individual cloves, we always take the very biggest, the very best, the most healthy bulbs for replanting. When I first started, the bulbs that I got weren't very big. They started off small, so we didn't get very good harvests. Until last year, we finally got a pretty good average of large bulbs. So it takes a few years to really get the big bulbs. You gotta sacrifice some of your crop to make it bigger. And there we go. We're gonna keep on going here to see if we can find a giant here. Shovel, work your way around, make sure you're outside of where you think the bulb is going to be, so you don't cut it with your shovel. Get that loosened up, make sure you're under it. And there we go, another good size. Another good one. You see all that good compost we did earlier in the year. It definitely paid off. We got some nice bulbs. So far we're averaging pretty good size. They all look healthy. No disease in them. No infestation of insects or anything. There we go. Now this one here, this one could have probably gotten a little bigger. It could have gone maybe a few more days, even maybe a week. It's still pretty green here. What you're looking for is you got, from the bottom up, you go 1 leaf, 2 leaf, 3 leaf, 4 leaf. Your 4th leaf, you want to be a little bit more yellow than this one here. You want it a little further down. It's not too bad, but it could have probably produced a little bit bigger of a bulb. So these smaller ones like this one is one we wouldn't plant. This is one that we would eat. You know, we'll store these. I've been having pretty good luck with storage of a year plus. I've still got some from last year that is still really good garlic. So whatever variety this is, it stores for a very long time. It's really good. Good strong flavor too. Not too hot. Kind of has a really nice flavor. I wish I knew the variety. If anyone knows how to identify a variety, I'd greatly appreciate a few lessons on how to identify your variety. I do know that there is some main types out there. There's what you would call a porcelain, which produces smaller bulbets like rice grain size, and that's one way you can identify them. Then also there is marble, which produces a little bit larger bulbets, and that also makes a difference on your clove size and how many cloves are in each bulb as well. Also, there's hardneck garlic, which is this, and there's softneck garlic. Up here in the north, we grow hardneck because it's winter hardy. Down south, they can grow softneck. Usually in the grocery stores, what you get is softneck. So that's pretty much what I know about garlic. If anyone knows any more, I'd greatly appreciate some comments. Otherwise, we're going to keep on going down the line here and see if we can't find a giant garlic bulb. Another small one here. All right, so here's our harvest of our first variety. These are the ones that we're going to use for cooking, eating, stuff like that. These ones here, I got 25 of the biggest right here, and that's what we're going to use for seed for in October. These are the biggest. Pretty good size. Here's my top 3 that I went through right here. You can see, look how big them are. There's some big garlics. Biggest I think I've grown. Next year, who knows? Maybe we'll get even bigger yet. Each year they're more mature. The cloves are larger. Larger cloves grow bigger bulbs. So there we have it. And each one of these has about 6. Some have 4, anywhere from 4 to 6 cloves. You can see the humps there. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's where we started. So we got 6 large cloves in there. There might be a couple other little ones packed in there. We don't plant those, just add them to cooking. And here's one I'd like to show you. This is one that had over matured, and here's what happens when they over mature. Like earlier I said, when the plant fully matures and then the top begins to die off, then these will start to separate and spread out, as you can see is what's happening here. And then each one of these cloves will create a new plant. But we're going to keep this one and we're going to seed it, and you can see inside of there how big each one of these cloves is. So, all right, we got 25 of our very best heads of garlic right there. And that is seed for next year. So say 25 times 5, 125 plants will grow next year on about, give or take. That's a little bit more than what I grew last year of this variety. This was about 100 or so. That was 6 rows. And then I have 10 more rows of our other variety that we'll be harvesting in about 2 weeks. So next we're going to take these up to the garage and we're going to get these set up for curing. And basically all we do is we just spread them out. You don't want them clumped together, you want them really spread out. I put them on a rack and let them dry for about 4 weeks or so. It depends. And I'll put a box fan blowing on them a little bit so that the humidity that we have going on doesn't slow them down or rot them. So we don't want any more moisture or humidity on these. We want these to be dried, so we need some airflow around them. So I'll get that going and then we'll show you that next step. Well, there we have it. I did a count and we ended up with 87 garlic bulbs. And that's just our first variety. Probably have almost double that in our second variety. We got our 25 bulbs, or 25 garlic bulbs up here. These are going to be our seed. And then the rest will be for eating throughout the year. So next year we'll have even more garlic. I've been trying to get this variety to be more and more each year. I only got one package from one vendor of this particular variety. The other variety I got 3 packages from. So this one's, they turn out bigger, and these ones are a little earlier, and I like these ones just a little bit better. So I've been trying to get more of these. But as you can see, I put a box fan down there underneath, blowing up through each level, and that'll help kind of keep some of that humidity away and keep the air circulating through them. And as they cure, all this green, it'll eventually turn yellow and dry up like this. The roots, those will shrink up, and the bulbs also will shrink up. If you see, there's a size compared to my hand there. And in a few weeks, we'll kind of do the same sample and check the size and see how much they shrink. Well, thank you for watching, and happy gardening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Garden Times.